It wasn't pleasant, but it was necessary.
Mm, yes,
Anywhere along the way, I could have chosen to rewrite the episode and go in a
right.
different direction,
Absolutely.
and I didn't. And so it took longer than I expected that it ever
Oh,
could.
right.
It was filled with more trauma and heartache and
Mm,
disappointment and disillusionment than I thought was possible. But all of that was necessary to get me to the place where I was broken enough to begin looking in another direction.
Welcome to the You Are Not Your Trauma podcast, a show that reminds you that you are not alone, your experiences matter, and you are not defined by what you've been through. Each week, you will hear from the host and invited guests who have either personal or professional experience with trauma. They will share their stories and strategies for overcoming past wounds and beginning the journey toward healing and wholeness. Now, here's your host, a gifted speaker, author, coach, and entrepreneur, Harriet M. Harris.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of You Are Not Your Trauma, the podcast that brings hope, healing, and inspiration to those who have experienced life's most challenging moments. I'm your host, Harriet M. Harris, and I am so glad that you're here today. I hope that this show is an important part of your healing journey. Now, today we're unraveling a journey from trauma to a place of trust and empowerment. We're talking about picking up the pieces, stepping out of the shadows, and walking into a space of self-trust and love. This episode is all about healing, about finding the courage to trust again after facing traumatic experiences in romantic relationships. It's about that beautiful, delicate balance between sensitivity and empowerment, rediscovering ourselves and embracing love with open arms. And who better to guide us on this path than our incredible guest today, Dr. Marcia Martin. She's not just a counselor and a best-selling author, but someone who has walked this path, who transformed her pain into a mission to help others find their strength and their heart's song through the angel heart healing technique. Welcome, Dr. Marcia. Thank you for being here and sharing your insights with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here and so excited to be at this part of my journey. The sharing part is so much more fun than
Oh,
the
the goal.
trauma part.
Understood for sure. But to kick things off, would you mind sharing a bit about your personal story and how it inspired the important work that you're doing now?
Well, it is the greatest gift that I could have ever received. All of the people that were part of getting me to this place,
Mhm.
I look back now with the greatest gratitude and appreciation for their role in my life, because I don't know, without the irritation,
Mm,
without the catalyst, without the being pushed to step out of where I was comfortable, if I ever would have been able to make a change and really step into this place of personal empowerment. So it is my with deep, deep gratitude that I look back at all of these people and say, it wasn't pleasant, but it was necessary.
mm, yes,
Anywhere along the way, I could have chosen to rewrite the episode and go in a
right.
different direction,
Absolutely.
and I didn't. And so it took longer than I expected that it ever
Oh,
could.
right.
It was filled with more trauma and heartache and
Mm,
disappointment and disillusionment than I thought was possible. But all of that was necessary to get me to the place where I was broken enough to begin looking in another direction. it was as if I needed to just come up against every dead end that I possibly could in order to jump off into the unknown. I don't know that I would have embraced this whole spiritual side. And I had always poked around and I thought it was interesting, but it was not normal and not practical and not something that I could use in my everyday life. So I kept going to the well, taking a sip and running away and saying, well, now I really have got to figure out my life. I can't spend time over here.
Right.
And so I kept shoving it down, and then I would pick it up again and read a little more or try something else. And it was, oh gosh, that worked for a minute, but it really didn't get me out of where I wanted to go. Well, it's just not practical enough. Okay, so, let's do the head-on approach to life. Let's just bulldoze our way through. I'm strong. I can do this. And, I had to get through all of that. I can handle anything. Go to my knees and just be out of options before I was really willing to let help in from a source that I couldn't see physically and couldn't interact with as another person physically. Right. It was just too intangible for it to be practical. So it was always no. And I had a really rough time with religion. So I was adding on really uncomfortable religious experiences to the understanding that I needed a personal relationship with the divine. And the two were like, oh no, we can't go there. That that energy got me in this place or told me I was stupid or foolish or shameful or whatever. So I can't go there. I've got to, just work harder, push through more, complain less, find a way to do with less until there was finally nothing left. And at the nothing left point, I was not able to take any classes, get any coaching, or find any help. So I was left with the library. And I began reading through the spirituality and religion section. And, I kind of gave the religious part a wide berth because I wasn't really wanting to understand God from a religious standpoint. And I dove back into spirituality. And again, immediately hit a stop sign because I picked up a book and it was from Abraham Hicks. And the first page, right off the bat, says, you are where you are because of the thoughts that you've been thinking. Ooh. And I was not ready. I was like, oh, another one of these stupid advice books. Put that away. Took it back to the library. Wouldn't leave my mind. At least 6 months go by. And I'm going further down the descent into hell. And over, I'm hearing, your thoughts are contributing to where you are. And my thoughts are filled with, I'm a victim. I tried so hard. I was so good to so many people. And there's just nothing more I can do. And I'm hearing over and over, like, how can my thoughts which are so justified, how can they be causing me any trouble? I did work hard. I did try to always act in a way that would benefit others. How can this be possible? And first I got mad, and that was sort of like the door opener, was like, I'm not okay with this. This just doesn't feel right. I really enjoy being a victim. And then more bad things happened. I was like, oh, I'm kind of out of answers. I got nothing left.
Wow.
Being good hasn't helped. Giving my time for free doesn't solve the problem. Working a lot of jobs isn't the answer. I seem to be getting deeper and deeper into this problem. And so I began that deep dive into what trauma really is and what it can be doing to us to derail us from recognizing the help that's available and how we are contributing to the problem.
Wow.
So, little by little, I would open up just, a teeny tiny bit, and some information would fly in that is what I needed in order to go to the next step. So it was a long and painful journey because I wasn't willing to say, I have contributed. It took me almost 5 years to really get to the place where I said, oh, wow, all of this pain and resentment and anger and fear and guilt and shame and belittlement that I have been operating from is drawing to me more of the same.
Wow.
And I was trained first in psychology. So I was a really brain fanatic, loved the brain, believed that if I could just understand the way the brain operated, I would have the keys to the kingdom. Wow. And through this journey, I was sent from the brain into the heart. Wow. And now I understand it is the heart which rules the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind that is most in control of how we respond to situations. Yeah. So it was a huge shift from, it's not necessarily what we are thinking, it is how we are responding to previous trauma that the heart has lovingly held on to for us in an attempt to keep us safe. Yes. So now my work is all about clearing and healing the heart so that the subconscious is no longer sending fear signals to the brain, but it is sending to the brain, you've got this. You are more than enough. You are capable of addressing this in a way that will actually move you forward. And when you come from that place, instead of, oh my gosh, everything is wrong, you can see where you are and what would be the next best action instead of just reacting in a crazy scattershot sort of methodology. So
Dr. Marcia, I'm going to tell you, I'm feeling very convicted over here. Like,
well, it has taken me from,
this sounds
I have
so
to do
familiar.
more good. I haven't helped enough people. I need to, completely deplete myself before I can allow myself to receive. It has taken me from that backward way of thinking to the understanding that when I give from an empty well, I am basically giving nothing. So now my first priority is to refill, to align with the divine, to make sure that I am grounded, my heart is open, that I am totally in alignment with the guidance that is being presented to me. And then I fill up, but I don't stop. I continue to fill and I give from my overflow. And whoa, what a difference. Instead of wobbling through life, hoping that I can be of service in some way, now I just overflow and allow those people that need the help to find me. And they even find me at the grocery store. It's been amazing to just, walk in a place where I have no idea. I'm just doing my thing. And I intersect with somebody who needs to be supported, loved, guided, not judged, not shamed, not blamed, just told, you are an amazing being. I am absolutely certain that you are going to find your way forward in whatever situation this is. Or you have angels all around you. Just open your heart. They are happy to guide you. And to know that that little moment that cost me nothing because I'm
Mm-hmm.
overflowing was a treasure to the
To
other
someone
person.
else. That is
And
so
it's such
beautiful.
a difference between when I used to give all of my treasure and then run around stealing from other people to give more. Now I am filled and I am able to give with joy, peace, love, instead of fear and the assumption that if I could just give more, it would somehow validate me.
Wow. You said so many things, and I definitely want to touch on several of them, but we are going to take a very quick commercial break and we will come right back and we'll dive in.
Want a chance to win exclusive You Are Not Your Trauma merch? Here's how. Leave a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform and share your thoughts with us. It helps us reach more listeners who may also be seeking healing and growth. Once you left your feedback, visit feedback.youarenotyourtrauma.com to let us know you've entered by entering your info and the word feedback in the message section. You could be a lucky winner. Now stay tuned for today's inspiring episode, and thank you for being a part of the You Are Not Your Trauma community.
Okay, we are back. So Dr. Marcia, you were telling us just a bit about how you got where you are today. And it is such a transformative story, such a beautiful story. And as I mentioned, I was feeling a little convicted because so much of what you said was familiar, of ways that I had been feeling. And really, when you talked about, giving so much of yourself. But what I wanted to focus on is what you talked about, that overflow, because I think that is so important for people to understand. Is that, when we do continue, we hear people all the time talk, say how we can't give from an empty cup, or how we can't pour from an empty cup, like if we're not filled. But you went on a little bit further and you talked about the overflow. So can you just kind of share with us the importance of having that overflow and what it does
I'll
for
take it
someone?
back even further to the
Sure.
the message that I was given that actually explained it to me. Because all of my life, one of my biggest fears is that I would be judged as selfish. And so I
Mm,
was always running from the belief that I was selfish and I needed to do acts of kindness and goodness in order to prove that I was not a selfish person.
mm,
So I spend a lot of time working with the divine, talking with them, communing with them. To me, they are both Mother and Father God. And this was a time when I was speaking just with the divine feminine. And I was just really vibrating with the fear of being selfish. And she is such a beautiful energy of harmony and love. And she said, you don't understand, dear. What you are doing is actually selfish because you are making people dependent on you. And when you
wow.
run dry, you then cause all of those people who were dependent on you to fall down. That is
Mm,
selfish giving. We are asking you to step into selflessness. And when you are selfless, you give from your overflow and teach others how to do the same. So you are not creating dependency. You are showing people how to be independent and how to be their own overflowing fountains of love. So she
wow.
taught me that before I reach out to someone else, I have to make sure that I have done the work to clear away my own trauma, my own fears, whatever hurt or pain may be clouding my ability to connect. And then once that is clear, refill. Because if you just leave a big empty space, all that stuff that you've been practicing for all these years about how you're not good enough, well, that's going to come back because you don't have anything else that's rolling around in your mind. So you clear it, but you don't leave it empty. You replace it with the truth. And the truth is you're more than enough. There is more than enough to go around. The truth is you are loved just as you are, and you are perfect as you are. What you may not be is complete. So people love to say, well, you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm doing the best you can. And I really dislike that because it is saying I'm not enough and I probably won't ever be. So it's important for us to understand that the divine see us as perfect, and they have gifted us with everything that we may need in order to successfully complete whatever journey we have decided on for this lifetime. And that includes if you came with a physical disability, a mental disability, an emotional disability, no matter what challenge you came with, you have within you everything you need in order to successfully complete the journey, but you must unpack it. Wow. And sometimes you can't discover it because there's all this stuff in the way. So you clear, you heal, and then you have access to this guidance and these tools that you brought with you. So no one is incapable. They're just perhaps undereducated as to what their capability is or what their strengths are or how they can pull on different energy for support. So everyone is on a journey to completion. Or in the grand scheme of things, we all want to be as the divine are. We are on this trajectory. I want to evolve, to be more like the divine energy, to be in that all-knowing state. It may be impossible. I don't know. I'm certainly not there. But I do know that the journey is designed to help you discover more and more and more about that connection. But you are perfect where you are. So I was perfect in the darkness because it was necessary to move me into the place where I could accept the light. Now, I am perfect in this stage of my light journey, but I am not yet complete, so I am continuing to learn. And every day,
and growing.
Yes, every day I'm uncovering new limitations that I can let go of and new tools that I can embrace. And that's one of the lovely things about working with the angelic realm is they never need to sleep. They never are in a place where they are sort of, let me think about that. I'm not sure. They always have an answer. They always have a solution, and they love sharing and helping. And one of the things that concerned me, because I'm always so concerned, is, well, is this fair? I remember early on in my journey going to God and saying, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with the amount of help that I'm receiving from the angels. It feels very imbalanced. What do I have to give? And so, as always, they come with brilliance that now at this stage, I'm saying, I'm not even going to question. I'm just going to say thank you and receive. Amen. But at the time, I was just like, I don't know, this feels a little uncomfortable because I'm getting a lot of good and I don't know that I'm really helping all that much. Well, the minute that you receive, you have gifted your angelic helper with what they need, because we're on a journey of ascension and they are as well. So they too are growing and wanting to be more as the divine are. And when you receive help and support from your angelic teammates, you are giving them the opportunity to ascend. So call on them 24/7, receive their help, put their tools and techniques into action in your life, and you are supporting them in their quest for ascending and moving in their own hierarchy. And of course, you are helping yourself.
Wow. So, a couple of questions that you've opened up once again from sharing that. You talk about the angelic assistance. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. One thing we need to remember is that absolutely every person has a connection with the divine, the energetic, angelic realm. There is no one that was without the ability to communicate. What we may be is have a connection that is quite dim or quite small. And that comes because we have a societal view that says, well, I don't see those beings, so they can't exist. Or,
Yeah.
Whatever, or that's weird. You're weird. And, I went through that phase. Oh, this is in my high school years, it was the paranormal. And all I wanted to be was normal. I didn't want to be weird. So, I got to push that over there because that's not normal. It's weird normal. So we close off that connection because it may be frightening or not societally approved, or our family would frown on us. And our job is to just let go of the limiting beliefs so that that connection can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it becomes then easier and easier and easier for us to hear or see or feel or sense what they are telling us. Because just because you close the door doesn't mean they are not still communicating. They will continue to communicate with you, whether you run away and say, don't ever speak to me again. They are still going to communicate with you. They're just hoping that you will begin opening the door. And it's simple to do. You just simply say, I'm going to look at all of the limitations that I have allowed myself to be in alignment with, and I'm going to let them go. If it doesn't feel good, if it isn't honoring me, I don't need to honor this limitation.
Yeah, it is definitely important to do that. I actually wrote a book called Stop Stopping Your Success that it really
Amen.
focuses on how our limiting beliefs keep us stuck and not able to move forward to have the success or the life or the desires that we want. And it's a journal as well that actually helps you to break down and write down what those limiting beliefs are, because understanding and identifying that I had limiting beliefs was what started the journey for me. It started that journey of healing because I realized how the trauma that I experienced had put so many different thoughts and beliefs into my mind that I really needed to address, that weren't true, that and they were keeping me stuck. They were keeping me from moving forward. They were keeping me with a really messed up belief system about myself. And it was starting to peel back those beliefs that really started the journey for me, which is what inspired me to write the book, so that I could help other people do the very same thing. So I
And that
totally
is
agree with that.
so fabulous because, hey, if you're not feeling good, if you're not making progress, something is wrong. Now, you are not wrong, and you don't need to be going forward with the attitude, show me what's wrong. That was another lesson from Mother God.
I've done that.
It was a morning meditation. And, I was already doing this work as a counselor. And I'm really feeling like, oh, I just love the way my life is unfolding. But I hadn't yet let go of the idea that I really needed to be focused on the what's wrong part of life. So instead of looking at what's right and being thrilled about that, I was still looking under every pebble and analyzing what was wrong. So I sit down to meditate and I have my notebook in front of me and I say, okay, Mother, just lay it on me. Tell me what's wrong. What am I doing wrong? And I'm clairaudient, so I can hear them. And hearing them is like my lifeline. So I make this big announcement. I sit there with my pad because often I will write the response and I get nothing. And my whole world implodes.
Wow.
In that nothing space, I let all the fear surface. Oh no, I'm barely out of the woods with their help. What am I going to do now? I immediately run away with the worst case scenario of how my life is going to go upside down again. Yeah. And I'm never going to be able to get answers. And I'm going to be on my own again. Isn't this horrible? And all of this unhealed trauma comes flying up in my face.
Yeah.
And this silence lasts maybe 3 seconds. And in that space, I've just reinvented the wheel of disasters. And then Mother starts laughing. And I think, I didn't think that was very funny. She said, we had to do it. We had to make you understand how damaging looking at what's wrong is. You have not yet turned the corner. You are helping others beautifully. And when you are there for them, you are so focused and so committed and so on it. But when you are here for yourself, you immediately go to what's wrong and try to dissect your life. So she said, okay, so here's what you have to do. I said, okay, I promise I'm going to do it. She said, you have to stop looking at what's wrong. I was like, I don't know about that. I don't think that's going to work. I said, but okay, I'll give you 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I promise that I will only look at what's right, but I guarantee you, in 2 weeks, I will be back here begging you to fix all of the problems that have occurred because I'm not looking at what's wrong and I'm not getting out in front of the problem. So she says, okay, see you in 2. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, boy, I got her this time. I am so wise. Good thing I was able to really school her on how it works here on Earth. In about 3 days, I was like, this is working out pretty well. Look at all these wonderful things that are happening. And more wonderful things keep being drawn to me. This is quite amazing. And
that simple mindset shift.
Yeah. And, and I would try to tiptoe over into the what's wrong corner. And I would feel like I would get a slap in the head, like, no, you can't. And I'd be like, oh, that's right. 2 weeks. And I can only look at what's right. I have never gone back. I have never had guidance that was as powerful as that. But, I grew up on a diet of fear. We ate fear for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We looked at what's wrong. We analyzed what could go wrong. We prepared for what was going to go wrong. We saved for a rainy day. And
who says it has to rain?
you know what? It really didn't rain in that life at all. But I was prepared for it to rain. It also didn't emphasize a lot of love and caring. It was very sort of kind of distant. I mean, I was part of a family, but I wasn't embraced as somebody really important. I was just a member of that family. And so when you step into a relationship with the divine, when you open yourself and say, I need to see who I really am, they show you how important you are to them and why you are a valuable being. And it really changes everything. You're able to see yourself as you truly are and then represent that to others instead of seeing yourself as just a cog in the wheel and someone that holds limited value.
Yes. And it begins with you being able to see it.
Yes. Now, interesting, as an elementary school teacher, that was one of the things that I did best because I knew the pain of not being seen or heard or valued. So it was so important to me that everyone who I interacted with would see their value. And that was at a place where I felt as though I was the biggest failure. So because I was so much of a failure during that time, I couldn't allow them to see themselves as a failure because I would say to myself, I've got that all sewn up. We don't need any more failures. I'm doing really well in that department. And my ability to continue is dependent on you being a success because everything was still outside. So there was no inner work being done. It was, if you're okay, I'll be okay. So I got to make sure that you all can pass and that you all feel good about yourselves because just a little bit of that will trickle into me and allow me to continue.
Wow.
So, that's what your life is like when it's lived on the outside and it is open for judgment by others. Now I live my life on the inside and you can judge me, but I'll go right back to the divine and say, do I need to improve in this area? Was that an accurate statement? Or is that just them misunderstanding because of where they are? So it is so much more empowering to be able to say, is this a limitation that I need to release? If so, let's take care of that right now. And then do that so I can just move forward. Or is this just their own fear that they're trying to reflect onto me?
Because that does happen for sure.
Yes, but it is so great to say, oh, when that person said that, that really kind of sparked something in me. Let me take care of that right now. Angels, let's go. Let's go right into the heart, identify that source, eliminate it, and replace it with truth. That is just hooray living instead of, oh, I hope someday I'll be able to be seen as a person of value.
Yeah, that is definitely a more empowering place to be on the hooray side.
Heck yeah. And just so much more fun. It's just it's
because I can
more
attest, just as you mentioned about the other side. And that is just not a fun place to be. That is not a fun place to be.
It is lonely. It's debilitating. It's filled
Yes,
with
it
shame
is.
and guilt and fear. And, when you are walking in that alignment with the divine, and everyone can do it, there are no exceptions to that way of being. But
Absolutely.
when you are walking in that state of alignment, the whole energetic realm love to have fun. They don't see that this is the end of the end of the end. They they see the forest. You might see that big tree right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
They see the way around it. They see that you can overcome it. They know that there is a solution and they're happy to provide it. What they just won't get into with you is all of the reasons why you can't do it.
True.
So when you've got them on your side, they just automatically lift you up. And that is one of the rules of engagement is if you want to stay in your negative space, you are going to be missing out on their guidance.
Mm,
In order to engage fully, you've got to let go of all of that darkness and be open and meet them in their high place. But that
yeah.
high place is filled with all the good, fun stuff.
That's what the good stuff is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's filled with that constant communication. I was walking the other day and I said, I need confirmation. I forget what I was asking for. But so I said to them, getting a little saucy, and I would like to see a hummingbird right here. And their answer was, oh, really? Well, don't tell us when to send you a sign
Mm,
and what to send you, because when
true.
you orchestrate it, you're not building your faith and trust in us. I was like,
Not at all.
well, I really wanted a hummingbird right now. And I didn't get it. And I
Right.
walked for a long period, actually forgot about that whole little incident. And sometime later, here comes a butterfly. And then it comes around again. And I get this wonderful feeling of peace. I say, oh, thank you. Now I see when I am not telling you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
I can receive so much more. And then for several days after that, they sent me hummingbirds every morning. One day
Wow.
they sent me two. And I was like, oh, it's so much more fun to be in the place where you are than in the place of fear and limitation.
Yeah, that is so true. So, question for you, because you mentioned protecting yourself a while back, a little earlier. Now, many people who go through traumatic experiences tend to build walls to protect themselves. How can one safely begin to dismantle these walls and open up to the possibilities of love and trust again?
You know, Brilliant question. And let me first say the wall is important. When
Mm-hmm.
you have allowed yourself, and I'll explain that in a minute,
Mm-hmm.
but when
Mm-hmm.
you have allowed yourself to be available for trauma, you are not allowing yourself to be available for the protection or the solution. So when we are in our trauma allowing place, the wall is a necessary support system because it's the only one that you know of. But when you are in that trauma allowing place, you are without tools and you are not aware that you are worthy and that you are allowed to say no. So here comes the trauma walking down the lane, and here you are, and you have no idea. You can say, no, thank you, and walk away. You
Mm-hmm.
believe that because it's coming at you, that for whatever reason, you need to interact with it, or you're an empathic being and you see that the person is going through a rough time and you believe it's your job to offer comfort and consolation and to give up your own whatever in order to help them. This is a trick that helps us learn to understand when we can and when we cannot help. So it's important that we have these traumatic experiences because, first of all, they help strengthen us. Secondly, they help us lay the groundwork for what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. So you have the trauma, you've built this wall, good for you. You didn't have access to any other tools, but I am super proud of you for putting up a wall and saying, no, you don't get to bully me, guilt me, fear me into taking your trauma on again. So really powerful for you to have made that first step and say, okay, no, I got a wall up. Now, the second step is to keep the wall up, but begin practicing self-love. And self-love means you say to yourself, I am allowed to say no. Yes. I am not here to help others at the cost of my own sanity, well-being, bank account, or whatever else it may be. I get to feel good. And if somebody is asking me to do something that doesn't feel good, I am not required to support them in whatever it is. So you keep the wall up and you start loving you. You start learning little by little to say yes to what does honor and support you and no to what doesn't. So let's just give an example. We have Sam over here, and Sam is very manipulative. And Sam doesn't even understand that they like to manipulate because Sam is not a particularly evolved individual. And here we have the little empath. The empath is a more evolved individual, sees the other side and what the person is going through, and is hardwired to help. Well, the first time they meet, Sam is going to squeeze the life out of that little empath. And Sam is not going to have any understanding of what they have done, and you are not going to know what's hit you. So you will need the wall after you wake up and you find that your bank account may be empty and your heart is broken and you are in a really tough situation. You're going to need the wall. But now that you have the wall, you must understand Sam doesn't know what they're doing, what he is doing, or she, whatever. Sam doesn't know what's going on. They have no idea that their actions, or if they did know their actions hurt you, they have really no way of evolving beyond that because they're not ready. Right. You can only be responsible for you. Absolutely. So you must say, that didn't feel so good, and I don't want to be here anymore. So I must begin honoring myself. What do I want? What does feel good? How can I put myself in a position where I am being surrounded by people that want to respect me instead of people that want to use me? And it all begins with you. If you begin respecting and honoring yourself, you will begin attracting others that want to do the same. As long as you are willing to devalue what you have to offer, you will attract those who want to take advantage of the fact that you see yourself as nothing. It's not their fault. That's where they are. It is your responsibility. They don't have control over you. You do. And that was the hardest lesson I had to learn because I had no boundaries, no walls. It was just take what you want and I'll find a way to get more because that's why I'm here. I'm here to be your servant. I'm here to address your needs. I'm here to support you. And that little drop of thank you that you give me once every 5 years or so has really got to be enough to sustain me. I was just living life wide open for abuse. it was my responsibility to put a stop to it,
Right.
to raise my vibration so that those who live their life praying are no longer interested in me. I'm too hard to get to now. I don't have any walls up. I've got unconditional love that is surrounding me, but I am no longer preyed upon by these people because I'm too unappealing. It's too difficult for them to jump up here and try to interact with me, and I
Too much
refuse to
energy.
go down here.
Yeah. Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about the trauma allowing place? You kind of mentioned that a little bit.
Absolutely. We allow trauma when we run on the belief that what we are and who we are is not enough or has no value or is undeserving of living a good life that feels wonderful. So that's how we allow or attract trauma. We've got to set a baseline and say, mine used to be, below the ground, somewhere
In
in
there.
below Middle Earth, whatever the heck. It was so far down I couldn't find it. We got to remember to set the baseline, not here at ground level. You are a beautiful being. You are a child of God. You are made of the most amazing material ever. All that you need to do in order to claim that is to recognize its truth. Recognize that there is no other source from which you could have come. And recognize that we are all united through this same source. So everyone has the same potential to rise up and recognize their greatness, but it is everyone's responsibility to do it for themselves. Others can guide us. Only we can say, yes, I am willing.
Change begins with you. The change begins with you.
And while you're in that allowing bad things state, while you are saying, yes, I don't matter, you may treat me any way you want to, trauma is going to, and abuse are going to knock at your door day in and day out, because you're activating that universal law of cause and effect. So you're saying, I don't matter. You can treat me any way you want to. And then we can't wake up and say, why are you treating me badly? You just said, hey, you can treat me any way you want to. You then don't get the opportunity to turn around and say, why is this happening? We must recognize these laws are operating continuously. They are universal and they cannot change. Just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean they're going to say, oh, that's okay. We're not going to bring you what you are putting out. You can have a day off. It doesn't work that way.
No, it does
you
not.
keep attracting what you are holding in your energetic field. And that's another way, I think, in which we get confused. People get all bound up in the words. And so I remember being very rigid in the words that I would choose. So I would be, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. And I would hope that somehow I would get good coming back. But I was completely filled with negativity. So the universe that doesn't speak English or any other language, that reads our energetic frequency and responds to that, saw that I was completely tense and didn't believe anything that I was saying. And it chose to respond to me with the belief that I was holding. And the belief that I was holding is, I'm a piece of trash. Just kick me to the curb. That's where I belong. And so, here comes something else bad that I didn't want. How did I get this? couldn't be me that attracted it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
just a victim. Oh, it's so hard to be a victim. Why does the victim never stop? I'm trying so hard to be good.
Right.
Well, that's the whole problem. Stop trying and start doing, but begin by loving yourself. If you
Yes.
love yourself, you cannot call yourself a piece of trash. You
Yes.
cannot speak unkindly to yourself and believe that that's acceptable.
I love
And
that.
when someone else does it, you will not sit there and say, thank you. You'll
Right.
say, I have something somewhere I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to engage. You don't need to have an argument. You can simply get up and say,
This is not the place for me.
I just remembered that I have an appointment, and never go
And that's
back.
it. Yeah.
You are
That's
under
it.
no obligation to go back. And, I am so drilled with manners. I can even say to the person that just insulted me, it was lovely being here with you, but I just remembered I have an appointment. And I can really mean it because it was lovely. They uncovered for me that this is not the
Mm.
person that I want to be. So I'm going to stop wasting
True.
my time with you. I no
Yeah.
longer need to spend my valuable time in your company. You are not the one for me.
Right. That is so true. Well, Dr. Marcia, thank you so much for sharing more about the trauma allowing place. I had never heard that term used before, so I wanted to really understand and hopefully provide some understanding for our listeners as well. So
Yes, because
thank
it
you for
could be
that.
a hot button. How dare she says I'm allowing this? Believe me, I've lived it, so I understand how
Yeah.
devastating that is.
Yeah.
But it only hurts because you don't understand you have the power to make a different choice. So
Absolutely.
please listen with your heart and understand I am not accusing you. I am
Right.
empowering you. I am telling you,
Absolutely.
you are more than your trauma. You are more than what has happened to you. And you may be undereducated in what's available, but you can begin right now to say, I don't need to allow this. I am going
Absolutely.
to love myself, honor myself, and respect myself. And I'll hold that line so others, whether I say it or not, will recognize they too must love, honor, and respect me if they are wanting to spend time with me.
Amen. That is the key for sure. That is
You are
absolutely the key.
valuable.
It is so
Your
important.
presence is valuable. People who
Absolutely.
get to spend time with you should feel
Lucky.
absolutely delighted. Yes, and so appreciative.
Yes.
And if they don't, you don't need them.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This has been so great. We are going to take another quick commercial break and we will be back.
We are on an incredible journey together, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the power of healing. To extend the reach and impact of the You Are Not Your Trauma movement, we've launched the Give 5 to Change Lives campaign. With just $5, you can contribute to developing invaluable resources like our upcoming You Are Not Your Trauma app, healing journal, and expanded podcast content. Every dollar and every share contributes to helping bring healing and hope to more people. We invite you to join this movement. Visit giving.youarenotyourtrauma.com to contribute. Together, we can change lives one heart at a time.
Okay, we are back. Dr. Marcia, thank you so much. This has been such an enlightening conversation. I love that it's been open and honest, and it's conversations like these that give other people hope and help them to find the courage and trust that they need after the turmoil of experiencing trauma. To begin to love again, not just other people, but most importantly themselves. So thank you so much for just everything that you've shared. It's been so interesting.
Just
Do you have
begin
any
within, begin with you, and I guarantee you, you are going to fall in love with the you that is you. If you think you are unlovable, it's because you don't know who you are. You are looking at the masks that have been placed upon you because of your societal views, your cultural views, your familial or ancestral line. Those are not you. You need to know you. And when you really do, when you allow yourself to meet this amazing being of love, you are going to be so delighted by what you find. So don't be afraid to go to the heart and just go on a quest. Hey, angels, show me, where am I holding limitations? And, when we do the angel heart healing work, it is so amazing to see, first of all, why you chose to hold on to that. It is believing this trauma that you've held on to truly believes that it is doing you a great service. It believes that it is preventing you from being hurt again. So when you go in, you'll see, oh, I created that out of response to this thing that happened. And I can see that it's holding me back instead of allowing me to really explore. And it's time to let that go. Or I can see how I misrepresented the situation and gave a lot of kudos to people that didn't deserve it because I didn't understand. Perhaps I was younger or not as wise as I am now. So I believed these people that were in authority, or I gave them authority. I thought they had knowledge that they didn't have. And now that I see for what it is, I see that's not very beneficial. And I need to let that go so I can grow.
Let go so I can grow. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, like I said, this has been a very enlightening conversation. I have truly enjoyed learning about what you do and really what got you there. It's such a beautiful story. So do you have any final thoughts to share with our listeners this evening?
I tell people, don't do it the way I did it. It was long and painful. I can give you the express trip because I had to spend almost 20 years diving into everything that was available and understanding what could get us there more quickly. So don't do what I did, but do follow my guidance because it's not mine anymore. I am now opened to the energetic realm. So they just give me what you need. And it helps us to get there so much more quickly. And my motto is, when you heal your heart, you will transform your life, because the heart is the engine that is driving you forward. And it's just easier when your engine is healthy and robust and is aligned with truth instead of dirty and rusted and aligned with lies.
Wow. That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. To all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of You Are Not Your Trauma podcast. And as we wrap up today's episode, here's a small yet powerful thought that I want you to ponder. Each experience, bitter or sweet, adds a line to our life's story. Embrace them with courage and self-compassion to build a narrative filled with trust and love. Now, if
Amen.
you found today's episode helpful, please don't forget to share it with someone who can benefit from the information that's been shared. Also, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show. That helps us reach more people. Check out the website at www.youarenotyourtrauma.com to leave feedback, request to be a guest on the show, subscribe to the show, get information on show guests, or to get information about advertising on You Are Not Your Trauma podcast. You can connect with You Are Not Your Trauma podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at You Are Not Your Trauma podcast. If you have a story to share, please email me at contact@harrietmharris.com. Now, stay tuned for more episodes where we will continue to explore the facets of healing, self-discovery, and empowerment. Until then, take care and remember, you are not your trauma.